If you were Disney Lucasfilm and you have successfully managed to run off somewhere between half and 3/4 of your Disney Plus audience since the season 2 finale of The Mandalorian, and you were now trying to desperately bail out a failing show called The Acolyte that cost you $200 million to produce, then of course the best course of action would be to take the star of the show, Amandla Stenberg, who has created a lot of unrest in the fandom with a lot of her silly comments.
To be in any way, shape, or form a part of the wave that is ushering in inclusion and safety for Black nerds.
And you put her on a panel with some of the dumbest women on earth on another Disney television show. Cross your fingers and, well, hope for the best. Renegade Online. Well, folks, welcome back. Another great day here at Valiant Renegade. It's good to see everybody out there once again. And if you are like one of the many watching this video not yet subscribed to this channel, please take a moment and turn that little red subscribe button to gray. Hit that like button, hit that notification bell, share this sucker out on the social medias, and of course, please do leave a comment before you head out the door today. Make sure to join us every Sunday and Wednesday afternoon right here at 6 p.m. Eastern for the live shows. For the last year or two, we have been told that The Acolyte would be the most diverse and representative Star Wars thing ever, because of course, before people like Leslie Headland, Kathleen Kennedy, and Bob Iger, and yes, Amandla Stenberg, Star Wars wasn't a safe space for Black nerds, I guess. At least that's what Amandla tells us. Of course, we all have to forget about the things like the diversity and representation that had been in Star Wars since the early days, and of course the fandom, which was richly diverse and representative, even all the way back with film footage from 1983 when Return of the Jedi premiered.
All I've got to say, the Jedi have returned.
We're just fanatics out here waiting on Return of the Jedi. 3 years in the making. We're waiting for this.
Everyone must have his own ticket.
Biggest surprise was to see all of them together at the end.
This has left me practically utterly speechless.
But now, of course, that The Acolyte's ratings are in the toilet as one of the lowest watched Star Wars things ever, we have to now come up with continued excuses, and of course, Amandla Stenberg running around on social media doing creepy dance videos out there, shaking it in your face to tell you what a bunch of racists you are. Well, now she's going on to The View. Let's take a look at how that went.
I think the themes feel so current now with the light and the dark that we're seeing in our country.
Yeah, the themes in the show, The Acolyte, in Star Wars feel so current because that's what everybody wants with escapism, of course. We want to be reminded when we watch Star Wars that it's still 2024.
See this, unfortunately, the success of this show has...
The success of the show? What exactly are we talking about here? It's one of the lowest rated Star Wars things ever in terms of viewership, and that's now been borne out by places like Samba TV and Luminate with Variety Magazine in tow. And now Nielsen is beginning to report on the first couple of episodes of The Acolyte, and it's just as bad as the other two. Yeah, you see, the thing is, this isn't really a successful show, at least not insofar as it having cost $200 million to produce thereabout. This is a relative disaster. But I get it. It's another Disney-owned company, ABC, that makes The View. And Disney, of course, owns Star Wars and Lucasfilm, and by extension, The Acolyte.
See this, unfortunately, the success of this show has made you a target by some in the right wing for the inclusive casting, which is something Whoopi talks about all the time.
I love how she's having to read this whole thing from cue cards like they have no idea what they're getting into. Not a surprise here with this crew on The View. But notice how immediately this pre-scripted question for this interviewer steers right into backlash and hatred from the right wing. No, she's getting backlash. The show is getting backlash because it's a bad show, and Star Wars fans that have been around since the 70s and 80s don't like it for good reason, and that is that Disney simply refuses to make Star Wars content for the actual Star Wars fans that have been around and paying the bills for decades to the tune of billions and billions and billions of dollars, at least right up until the last few years when Disney took it over. Kathleen Kennedy and the Walt Disney Company refuse to cater to the, as they have said many times, and still recognize the male-dominated audience out there. And yet they keep producing content that those male-dominated audiences just aren't resonating with, and Disney doesn't seem to care.
You have received horrific racist backlash, including threats, and what you call intolerable racism. That is your quote. Can you talk about that a little bit? And
Wait a minute. When did this change? You welcome criticism of the show when it comes to storytelling and performance? Well, by God, that's pretty much all we've been doing since this show debuted about a month ago. The storytelling is crap. The writing is crap. The acting is crap by and large, although not every single piece of it is. We've talked about how Lee Jung-jae seems to be doing a fine job, at least when you consider a poor script that he was given to perform from.
We welcome criticism of the show when it comes to storytelling or performance.
And somehow this legitimate criticism of a legitimately bad show is what has garnered such responses to that criticism as cries of racism and misogyny and sexism and so on and so forth. See, we're blurring the lines here once again during this interview. We're not able to really separate things out, at least not insofar as they're actually happening in real life and in real time. Show me where this criticism has been that has not been on those merits. Show me the criticism that has been, this is a bad show because the actors are this, that, and the other in terms of race, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, what have you. Yes, we have made jokes about the fact that Disney has routinely billed this since the very early stages as the most diverse and representative Star Wars show ever, as if that has anything to do with the show itself and the caliber of storytelling. But that is the road that Disney decided to go down to promote this show, arguably more than anything else.
But when it comes to death threats, horrific, violent, racist language, it's unacceptable to me. And I've had to think...
Again, to this point, Amandla Stenberg has yet to actually show any evidence of this having happened, which is a little disconcerting, especially given the nature of, frankly, all the criticism that I've seen of this show, which has had nothing to do with any of the racial or gender components of the cast in this show. It's just a bad show, like we said. So if you're getting death threats or having racial epithets hurled at you in, direct messages or something along those lines, let's take a look. If they're actually happening, then that's abhorrent, and nobody should be doing that, and nobody should support that. But we always seem to get these charges or these allegations of events like this happening in situations like this where bad shows are made and studios need any excuse they can have to try to get themselves out of it. Hey, it's not us. The show's not bad. The fans are just ists and phobes. We never really seem to get any receipts, do we?
I've had to think really deep and hard about when you display discipline and when you display honor. And I guess what I mean by that is when do you decide to utilize discipline to not engage in a reactive way to hatred? And when do you decide to engage in honor by honoring your values and your belief system?
And she was vocal. Of course, she made her dance video or whatever it was that she put out on her Instagram account. But I'm not really clear on what she means of a distinction between discipline and honor, at least not as how she describes it. Were you exercising discipline or honor when you did the video? See, I don't think there's anything particularly honorable about the video itself. Yeah, the culture's divisive, and your video didn't really do anything to settle that.
First thing I'm going to remind everyone watching is that her character is fictional.
yeah,
Right.
So
What? The character's fictional, Whoopi, and your point is what? Again, we're making assumptions here that these threats or whatever that Amandla Stenberg is alleging on this interview, or has up to this point, regarding her role in The Acolyte is true. I'm not so sure of that. Again, haven't seen the receipts, would love to entertain them if they actually exist, but we just don't know. But yeah, her character is fictional, and she's just portraying it poorly with a bad script.
Always remember that the people who are yelling at you often are bots and not real.
That's true.
And
Wait. Did Whoopi just suggest that the people who allegedly sent threats to Amandla Stenberg are just bots? Well, that kind of negates this entire reason for having an interview, does it not? It kind of negates the entire purpose of her video if Whoopi thinks that the people yelling at her and sending her these things are just bots. That would, what are we doing here? And that's basically it. It was a quick 8-minute interview on The View. You can go check out the whole interview for yourself uncut. I'll leave a link in the video description below if you want to check that one. But needless to say, this isn't helping anything. And the week-over-week numbers for The Acolyte keep dropping down. Meanwhile, we had reports today that episode 4 for House of the Dragon Season 2 was the most viewed episode on its premiere night so far this season. Things just keep getting better over on that $200 million show that has a pretty well-diversified and representative cast, and the fans seem to be loving it. Not sure what's wrong here with Disney Star Wars, but maybe the allegations and charges they're making here as to why their show is suffering the way it is might all be a bunch of bullshit. Make sure you're subscribed to Valiant Renegade and join us every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern for the live show.